Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to go over creating an expense tracker, and this can be used basically by anyone that wants to track their expenses. It could be in your business, it could be in your personal life, it could be on a project, doesn't really matter. This expense tracker would work for whatever type of situation that you're in that you want to specifically track expenses. This is what it looks like. This is a finished product. I'll have the complete version of this template in my shop for sale if you're interested in purchasing it. However, if you want to create yours from scratch, you can follow the tutorial and customize it some more to fit your specific needs. If you are a member of my Patreon, you will receive a copy of the spreadsheet we designed today. So thank you again for the Patreon members that have already joined. So what are we creating today? Like I said, this is the entire spreadsheet. It has January all the way through December and an annual area. We're going to be creating this part right here, which is basically a place to customize and enter in all of your expenses to allow us to create drop-down boxes. And we're going to be creating January. And once you create January, all you need to do is duplicate it to create the rest of the months for the year. All right, so I'll show you how this works and then we'll get started with the tutorial. First, we have an area here that displays the correct month and year. Select the year here, you select the month here. As you can see, it displays the month and the year we have selected here. Here is the average amount spent and here's the total amount, okay? And this data comes from what we have down here in this table. We have several graphs. The first one shows you the spending, okay, per day for the entire month. It goes all the way to about January 19th or 20th because that's all we have entered in this table. Here it shows you your breakdown per category. When you hover around, you can see the percentage as well as the amount. So you can clearly see that employee expenses is the largest piece of the pie at right around 50% or $5,800. And the last graph is the subcategory breakdown. And then here's where we enter the data. And you will just type in your data in the columns, and the category and subcategory, we're going to use the drop-down selection tool because we will create those in the customize tab, and the rest would be just to enter our information. And you will do this every month. And then once you do this, it pulls in that information here. If you look at the rest of the months, it's exactly the same. The only difference is we have selected the correct month here and of course entered the expenses for the month of March. And finally, for the annual, this adds up all the expenses for each month and it shows us the breakdown of expenses by month and the total by category, total spent to date, and the average, okay? We're not going to be creating this today. We're only going to focus on creating the monthly tab. All right, so with that said, let's jump right into doing that. So we're starting out with a blank sheet here. I will clean it up and I'll come back and show you kind of what I did. All right, so here's what I've done. I removed the extra columns after all and the extra rows after 100. The next thing I like to do is I like to set my fonts and the formats the way I want it to look at the end, so I'm not changing it during or after. Click right here to select everything and change the fonts to what I'm going to use. Change it to center justified and change the vertical alignments to middle. The last thing I'm going to do as far as global formatting is I'm going to change the standard colors. I want to use this more pastel colors up here. You don't have to use this. Of course, you can import whatever color palette you want. For the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to use this palette right here, okay? I'm going to change these. And the reason I like to change this is that it will affect everything else you do, including the graphs and the charts when you make them. It will pull the colors from the colors that you have added here. Click on this pencil icon and I'm going to change the font here to Roboto. Okay, and this is going to affect the graphs as well. So I like changing the font here. I'll change the text to this dark gray and leave the background as white. And I'm going to change all of these colors. So I'll start with this one and just go through the colors that I want to add. If you wanted to add colors from a different color palette, the steps are the same. you would go to the same area, and instead of clicking one of the colors here, you would go to add custom color, okay? And then you type in the hex code. All right, so now that I have done that, I'm going to rename this as, set up this as January. And here is where I am going to add my categories and subcategories. So I'll create a section header here. Right, so here I will add my category, and here will be subcategory. Okay, and I'll add numbers 1, 2, and then select both of them and drag all the way down to get 25. You see, when this happens, it's because it's copying the formatting from the cell above it. So I'll show you how to fix that in a second. But before we do that, I'm going to copy the numbers and just paste them here. Okay, and then to fix this, what we can do is I'm actually going to select both of them, and I'm going to go to borders, and first I'll click on no borders and remove the bottom border completely. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select right below it, okay, right below the last one that I intend on using, and then I'm going to go back and add the border color. I think I was using this one, and then click on border style, make sure this is selected. I'm going to click on top border. Okay, it looks exactly like before, but it has a different effect. So if I were to delete these, for example, and then decide to do exactly what I did before, when I do that, it doesn't delete the bottom border. All right, so that's just a little tip that would save you a lot of time if you are creating lots of tables. And what I'm going to do is actually, instead of having all these excess columns, I don't need them. I will just delete the middle ones so I don't have to merge, just delete them. And I'm going to go ahead and delete everything from 40. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to resize the numbers, just resize them, and resize the text area. So this is where the actual text is going to go. And I'm doing them together because I want them to be the same size. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the size of the rows, highlight all of them, I'll right click, click on resize rows, and I like them somewhere around 30 to 35. I'll start with 30, and then if I don't like it, I'll add some more. And now that I've done this, I will go ahead and just delete these excess rows again. And the last thing I'm going to do is resize this, this, and this. Resize them to 40, okay? And then delete this and resize these together. All right, so this is what it's looking like. And now that I have my borders and my rows and my columns to where I want, I'm going to remove the grid lines, go to view and click on, see how it's checked, uncheck it. And there we go. Now that I have this here, I do want some horizontal lines. So I'm going to go ahead and select both of them, go to our borders and change the color to a lighter color, change it to the dots instead of the actual full stroke. Actually, I'm going to click on this first, okay? And then I'll go and click here and then it changes it. And now you can change the colors here. I would say use the colors that you have selected here, because if you do decide you want to change the colors for the entire template, you can edit these colors and it will change it in the entire template. So we've done this step, and now I'm not adding the currency because I usually do this for templates that I sell, obviously, so that it can be used by anyone that purchases it. Each country has its own currency symbol, right? So I like to give my customers the flexibility of using their own currency symbol. And because this is something you're going to be making by yourself, you don't need to do this step. So we're only doing these 2 steps. All right, so we have our categories and we have our subcategories done. Now we can move on to creating the actual expense tracker for the month of January. The first thing we're going to do is create this table part right here. So I ended up using ChatGPT 3.5, okay, to create the dummy data and copying that directly into the spreadsheets. All right, so we have our data here, okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is just move it down a little bit, start maybe at 13 and resize the columns. All right, so here's what I've done so far. I resized the columns so it makes sense with the content of each cell. And then I added a border around. The next thing I'm going to do is create filters here. I like to create filters in each column to help filter out the data when it gets really long, if you want to see something specific, or if you want to sort. This also helps with that. So to do that, just click on the first cell in the table area that you want to create a filter. Right click, create filter, and that's it. Once you do that, it creates these, you see these icons right here? Now, if I want to filter, all I need to do is click on this and I can filter by whatever criteria I need. So let's say I want to filter by category. Click on that and clear all. I only want to see my utilities. And there I have the utilities showing up. And another way I like to use this, okay, is let's say, okay, we have our dates entered here in the correct order. Let's change this to the 23rd. Okay. So we have the 23rd and the 10th. We can actually put it back in order by clicking on this, sort A to Z, and then it puts the 23rd all the way at the bottom. Just jumping back quickly here, I want to show you that here we do have the date picker option set for all the cells. So anytime you click on the column for date, it shows you the dates picker calendar. And we're going to create these two drop downs here. All right, so now the date picker option shows here because we put in some dates, but if I were to double click here, it doesn't work. So what I'm going to do is add the date picker option for the entire column. Go to data validation, add rule. All right, so it's created a drop down because that's the first option it's selecting. So before I even change the criteria to date, I want to change the apply to range. Right now it's applying it from B14 to B19, okay? Because that's all I selected. So I'm going to remove 19 and select the entire column. That way it selects everything all the way down. And instead of drop down, just changes to is valid dates. And of course, you can choose reject inputs to ensure a date is always entered and click done. Now, if we double click on any of the cells in the column, the calendar shows up to select the dates. You can also change how the date shows up in this column. Ensure the first cell is selected. I'm going to click on Shift Command and the arrow on my keyboard that is pointing down. And when I do this, it selects everything all the way through the end of the cell that has a text in it. And I'm going to hit it one more time and it will go all the way down to 100. I'm going to go to Format and Number. And here you can change the way the date is displayed. So do that, go to Custom Date and Time and just pick whichever one you like. I'll select this, click Apply, and it shows up like this every single time. So if I were to click this and select April 24th, it shows up in the same format. All right, so for currency, this is set as US dollar. To change this, go to Format, go to Number. You can change the format right here. If you're not using US dollar, go to Custom Currency. And right here, it shows the US dollar as the default. You can select, let's say, Euro, for example, and then you can click right here to change how it's displayed. All right, so the next thing to do is to work on the drop downs here. I'll delete these placeholders we have here. And just like I did with the date, I'm only selecting a few. If you have a really long sheet, so if your sheet goes all the way down to 1,000, you don't need to select everything. So just select a few. You can right click and click on drop down, or because I already have data validation open here, I'll just go ahead and add a rule, just like we did before. Just remove 21 and it selects everything all the way down to the end of the column. And instead of drop down, change this to drop down from range. And click on this to select data range and go to our setup, and we're going to select everything here all the way down to 28, row 28. Click on OK. And then go to advanced options. Here's where you can change it from chip to arrow. I like to reject the input because I want it to have the exact same content everywhere. So I'll click on done. And when we go back here, you can see that we have options to select right now. We can select from the drop down and it goes all the way down till the end. So we'll repeat the same steps for the subcategory. Perfect. So now we have our categories and subcategories set up. The next step would be to create these two columns. Here we have a column with subcategory and we have a column with the amount. And what this is doing is that it's taking all the information in the subcategory. So as you can see, we have some subcategories listed more than once. We have website hosting or wages, because you might have multiple subcategories entered at multiple different times in the same month. So this is going to take all of that information, create a unique list from this list right here, and it will add up the totals. So for example, we have stylist wages. So if we go here, we have stylist wages here, and we have stylist wages here. I think those are the two options we have. And for this one, we have $5,000, and for this, we have 400, okay? And if we go here and we look for stylist wages, we have 5,400. So that's what it's going to do. We need to use two formulas. The first column is going to create a unique list, and the second one is going to sum up this list. First, we'll start by creating the columns. So we'll move this a little bit to the corner, and we'll use these two columns. So I'll select these two, make it bigger. I will add column headers, subcategory, and for total. And the next step would be to add the formula that would allow us filter the information from this column. And to do this, go ahead and just click on the first cell here, equals, unique, tab, and now select a range. So the range is E, so I'll just select this, and I'm going to remove 26 and close the bracket and hit enter. And as you can see, it gives me a shorter list, of course, because this list has duplicates. We have packing supplies here, we have maintenance here. So it creates a unique list from this list. And if we're to add something else, so let's see, graphic design. Now graphic design did not exist before. Now we have it here. And if I were to add graphic design one more time, it doesn't show twice. It's a unique list of column E. The next would be to add the sum formula. You can pause the video, copy the formula, and now I'm going to go ahead and paste it in the sheet I'm working on right now. So we're going to go ahead and paste it here. And I know it's not going to work because the locations are not correct, but that's not a problem. All we need to do is change the location of the cells. So we know G is where the subcategory is supposed to be. Our subcategory in this sheet is an E. So change this from G to E, okay? And now it's selecting the right column. I'm going to change it from 12 to 14 so that it selects the right row here. And now this L12 is this cell right here. So this cell right here is I14. So change this from L12 to I14 or just click here. And then last, we want to select the correct amount, and the amount is in column C. So change this from D to C, change the row to 14, and change D to C. And now it's telling us we want to autofill. In this case, we do want to autofill, so I'll click on OK. So let's say you did not select the option to autofill. I'll just delete it. For example, you only had the option here for this cell. Just go ahead and drag it down. Okay, once you drag it down, it copies the formula all the way down. Okay, so if I were to double click on this, you see now it's selecting the correct one. So copying it down keeps these the same because I have locked them with the $sign, and it leaves this one free to change to select the right cell next to the amount. And then of course I can copy this all the way down in case my list of subcategories is really long, or you can delete it. So now that we have this, we can always double check to make sure that it's actually doing it correctly. We have the packaging supplies shown up twice, 50 and 75, and that is 125. So let's change this from 75 to, we should have 150 as our total, and the formula works because we have 50 here. So I'll change this format here to the same one we had before for currency, so it matches the currency formatting we have here. And this part of the template is done. The next thing we're going to do is create this area. This is the area that's going to allow us to select the year and the month, and then it gives us two rows right here that we can use to display the average and the total monthly spending. So here we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We need 6 rows and of course 2 columns. So we'll use these 3 columns by merging these 2 together. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to merge all of these into one by selecting all of them. Click select merge and merge horizontally. Okay, so now I have basically 2 columns. So now I'm going to set up an area that would allow me add year and month. You can do this in 1 step or 2 steps. So I'll go back here, and here we have an area to select the year and an area to select the month. You can use drop down or drop down from range, which is what I mean by 1 or 2 steps. This is the 2-step approach, meaning that I am selecting this from a range that has the years already entered, and I'm selecting this as well from a range that has the month entered. And it's in my customized sheet right here. You can see I have the years and the months. So you can do it in 1 or 2 steps. I'm actually going to do this 2 steps approach because it's actually quicker and more accurate. I'll make another sheet for this example, and then you can just hide this sheet and you don't ever have to see it again, except of course you want to make changes. And I'll type year and I'll type month. And then what I'm going to do is type 2024, 2025, and then select both and drag it all the way down. So as you can see, it's a lot faster than typing each month when I'm creating the drop down. And for here as well, I will type in January and just drag it down. Go in here and clicking on data validation, add a rule and add drop down. Then you would add 2024, 2025, 2026. It works, but it's a lot quicker, in my opinion. Create another sheet, drop down from range. I'm going to go here. I'm going to select my year and change it to how I like it to be displayed. Click on done. And here I have my year picker option, and I repeat the same steps for the month. Okay, so now that I can confirm that they both work, I will go ahead and hide the sheets by clicking on the arrow, click on hide sheet. And then I never have to see it again. It's out of the way. And I actually realized that I want these down here. So I'm just going to move them around. I'll change the formats in here, just remove everything and add it back. And then merge these 2 cells and change the color. And then use a darker color here. And then use the lighter color down here. Select everything to make sure they're all in the correct format. Okay. And then here would be the average. And here would be the total. Okay, and then you can make this bold. The next thing we want to do is we want to make sure that the date displays the month and the year here when we select the correct month and the correct year. Right now we have the year and the month, but nothing is showing here. We need to add the formula that references these 2 cells and creates a date right here based on what we select. We're going to do the same thing. We're just going to copy the formula. It's a long one, but pause the video and then you can copy it. And of course, if you are part of my Patreon, you'll have a copy of this sheet and the formulas will already be in them. So pause the video, copy the formula. Just make sure you take a note of the location of the cells. So C6 represents year and C7 represents month. And we're just going to go back and we're going to paste it here. Don't worry if it doesn't work, that's fine. We need to make some changes to the location of the cells. So remember, C6 represents year. So here in this new sheet, our year is in D8. So we're going to change C6 to D8. And our month in C7, in this sheet, our month is actually in D9. So change it to D9 and hit enter. Once we do this, we have a date, but we don't want it displayed like this. We actually want it displayed March 2025. So make sure we click on the cell, go to formats, go through custom dates and time, and select how you want it displayed. So we want it to be maybe something like this, but we don't want the day. So I'll just delete the day and delete the comma. So now it's going to display month as an abbreviation and the year. So we can change this to full month and make sure the year is 4 digits and click apply. So now we have March 2025. So I'm going to make this bigger. And then let's test it out. So I'll change this to the actual year that we're in. And we are in April right now. So April 2020. Perfect. So that part is done. Next thing we're going to do now is we want to add the average of the amounts here so we can know how much we're spending on average for the month and the total. And these would be to use the average formula equals average. Okay, and we're going to select a range and hit enter. And now we don't want autofill because it's wanting to put an average in the place where we want to put the total. So I'm going to say no. And then I'm going to do the same here for total and equals. I'm going to do sum this time. Add the range, the same range. Okay, enter. And we can always double check by selecting everything and going down here. You can see the average is 61 and the sum is 915, which is what we have here. Okay, and this is in the right format. So if this wasn't in the right currency format, we would do the same thing that we did to set up the currency format by going to format and clicking on the currency format that you want to use. So this part is done. Next, we want to create our graphs. We want to create a graph for daily spending, category breakdown, so the breakdown of categories and the amounts to represent it here. And we want to create a subcategory graph that will be based on the information here. So first we're going to work on this graph. It's based on the date and the amount. So go back to our sheets here and we'll select these two columns. We're going to click right here, click on insert charts. And this is what it's giving us automatically, which is fine. And of course, if you want to use column, you're welcome to do so. But before we decide on the graph, I will change the range. I'm going to remove 28. I only select up to 28 because I don't want to go all the way down and scroll all the way down to 100 because we don't need to. We can always remove the number at the end of the column and it will select everything automatically. Okay, so once we do that, it shows 100 because that's how many rows we have in this sheet. And now I can change it to what I want. So I'm going to change it to the graph. And I'll customize it a little bit more. Go to chart style. I would just like to remove the background color and remove the border. Just add none. And then you can choose how you want the graph displayed. So smooth looks like this, and if smooth, it has this pointy end. So I like the way it looks smooth, so I'm going to do that. And we'll close this for a second, and I'm just going to resize the graph. Okay, put it right here, and I'm going to remove this header. So now might be a good time to remove the grid because we kind of know where everything is going to be. So remove the grid by going to view, show, okay? So now we have the graph looking more like this. Of course, if you want borders around the graph, you can add them back. I just remove them by clicking on chart border color none. You can add them back if you want like a border around the graph. And if you want to remove these lines, you can by clicking on that, and that removes the major grid lines. And to change the color, just double click on the color, line color shows up, and you could change it to maybe something darker. Maybe change it to something green or red, whatever color you want to use. So now we have the actual spending showing up here. And we can verify that the graph is displaying the correct numbers by double checking. So let's say April 10th, $90. Here we have dollars, April 14th, $85. Perfect. So the graph is working well. All right, so if I were to add some amount to April 24th, so let's say $600. Okay, now that did not show up in the graph, so we can double check that by clicking on edit chart. And as you can see, even though I changed the range to select the entire column, it didn't do that. So now I'm just gonna remove this 28 and it selects everything up to 100, and then the chart is displaying as it's supposed to be. So change this from 600 to maybe like 100. And as you can see for April 24th, it's displaying 100. All right, so the graph works fine. Next, we're going to create this graph here that says category breakdown. And this is this column and this column together. So we'll go back here, we'll make some room for that graph. Maybe we'll make this a little bit wider so we have some more space. All right, so we're going to place that graph here. That graph is going to be based on these two columns. So we're going to select these two columns. Click on the graph, insert chart, and we want a pie chart, so click on that. And actually what I'm going to do is change the range here, so change it all the way to D, so it selects everything in that column. Click on OK. So now you can see it's selecting all the way down to 100 for C and for D. And what I'm going to do next is to aggregate. It's listing every single amount we have in column C and their duplicates. So you can see supplies, shipping more than once. Anything that shows up here more than once shows up here more than once. So we don't want that. We want it to be a sum. So we're going to click on aggregates. And once we do that, now you can see we have no duplicates because it adds up all of the amounts that shows up for each category. Now, just like we did before, you can click on chart style, remove the border color, okay? And let's say, just remove the header here and resize it. Let's say instead of the actual pie charts, you want the donut chart. You don't have to change it here in the setup. You can, but then it resets everything that you have done. If you've made some changes, it resets it. Go to customize, go to pie chart, and donut whole. You can change it to like 75% and it creates the exact same type of chart. And then let's say you don't want it to be displayed like this. You want it to be displayed at the side or the top. Just click on that specific legend. It pulls up the legend area, and then you can say display to the left, and it displays it like this, or right, top, bottom, whatever your preference is. Okay, I will display it in the left right here, and then I'll just change the size to 10, and maybe I'll change it back to pie charts. So just go to customize and remove the donut hole, and now we have the pie chart. Now remember how I said these colors, it's going based on the colors we placed here. So as you can see, these colors are the colors that we have put in here, okay? So that's one nice thing about setting up your standard colors, because it just pulls all the colors automatically. Last but not the least, we want to create the chart here. And of course, it's going to be based on these two columns. So just select them like we've done before. Click on Insert Charts. And it's the same step. We're going to need to make sure that we have it going all the way down to the bottom. Okay, so select all the way to 100. We also want to aggregate, so we're going to add this and then make some further changes like we did before to the other graph. And I'll just delete the header here, and there we go. Now resize the graph so it's the same as the one next to it. And then of course, we can change the display. So maybe for this one, we would want to do a donut. We can change it to 75 and change the legend to maybe also left. And of course, when you hover around, it shows you the percent as well as the amount. Right? Okay, so packing supplies, we know it's 150. So hover here, you can see it's 150 and that's 48%. All right, and that is what it's looking like so far. The rest would be just to clean it up to make sure it looks uniform and we don't have rows and columns that we don't need, and they're around the same size. So we have extra columns here, we'll just get rid of them, and I'll click on this one, resize them, make sure they're the same. So I'll set them 30, and then at the top I can remove the extra row. And actually we haven't added our headers, so maybe this would be a good time to do so as well. So we'll make some room for the header, and we can add our headers here. Just merge this cell, this is already one, and then merge this. And these are the headers we're looking to add: daily spending, category breakdown, and subcategory breakdown. All right, so we have our daily spending, category breakdown, and subcategory breakdown. All right, so the last thing I want to do is to add back the lines here. So I do want the lines to show up in between each row. Use the shortcut key to select all of the rows. Go to border. Now I want the lighter color, so I'm going to choose this one. And instead of this line, I want this dotted line. So I'll click on that and make sure that it's selecting this. And then I'll add the columns as well, but I want the columns a solid line, so I'll change it back to that. All right, so now we have that, and do the same for this as well. Going back to the original template, we have recreated every single part of the template. The only thing that we haven't done, of course, would be to create the monthly options. So now we have January. So this is January, not April. So I'm going to rename these as April. Doesn't really change anything. It's just to organize your sheets correctly. So I'll rename this as April. Okay, so this is the month of April. To use it for the next month, click on duplicate and click on it one more time, rename. Now we're going to use this for May, and then enter. So here's April and here's May. And if you wanted to, you can add some colors to differentiate the month. This is just a stylish thing. You don't have to do it. But if you wanted to do so, click on April, click on that icon again, change color, and you can say, okay, for April, it's going to be red. And for May, it's going to be green. Okay. And then you can have a different color that represents each month. And you could also match the color here to the color here. So maybe we'll change this to the red color. Okay. And then for May, we have green. So we'll change this to that green color. It might make sense to delete the data so that you have a blank sheet each time you want to create one for the next month. So I'm just go ahead and delete all of this. There are no formulas in this area, so it's okay to delete everything. So all the graphs disappear and everything basically disappears. We do have this error message here that doesn't look nice, and we're going to get rid of it. So to get rid of this error message, click on the cell. We're going to make some edits. Click right after the equal sign. Type if error, open parentheses, and we'll follow this format here. Okay, this is giving us a guide. So we'll go all the way down here, enter comma, and then we want it to be blank. So we're going to enter quotation mark twice. Okay, quotation mark twice and close the brackets and enter. The formula is still there, it still works, but now we don't have that error message that shows up. Now let's enter a few data points in May to see how it works. Start with selecting a month and a date in May, 100 cost of goods, accounts, credit card, and then enter another data point for the 8th, let's say $300, marketing, website hosting. By the way, if you wanted to create a drop down here, you can do so you're not having to type it every single time. All right, let's add one more. May 9th, 100, transportation, gas, debit. Okay, and as you can see, it shows the average here. We have our total amounts. We have our graphs displaying the amounts correctly. So we have 3 values here, 3 values here, 3 values here, and the correct totals. I'm going to change the format for the average. So click on that, add dollar. And if for some reason that doesn't fix it, it still has a long list of numbers. You can adjust it by increasing or decreasing the decimal places here. So you can increase or decrease. Okay. So that's done. Let's add one more for May 3rd, and we're going to add 50. We'll do cost of goods as well. Okay, and inventory purchase and credit card. All right, so now we should still have 3. So we know it works well. We have 3 as well because it's basically the same, just on a different date. But now look at this graph. It looks strange. And that's because we have May 1st, May 3rd. It's not in order. So we do have the option to sort. So click on the arrow, click on sort A to Z. And now it's in ascending order, May 1st, 3rd, 8th, and 9th. And the graph looks the way it's supposed to look. All right, so that brings me to the end of this tutorial. I hope this was helpful for you. Remember, if you are part of my Patreon, you will get this copy. So this one that we just created today, you get this one. As usual, if you have questions, leave them in the comment section below. Like this video if it helped you with creating an expense record for your personal or your business. And I will see you in the next video. Take care.